true crime podcast where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Is this our last medical murder case?
This is our last medical murder month. Mm-hmm.
I'm always done with the theme at the end of the month. I just don't want to cover any more serial killers for a while.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I think I have a few next month.
Oh, God, I'm sure I do too. So we're going to announce next month's theme right now.
Speaking of next month.
Yeah, forensic firsts. Lillian, what does that mean? The first time fingerprinting was used, or DNA evidence, or fiber evidence. A new test was done. And this case that I'm covering coincides with that. So it's kind of a lead-in thematically. I'm very proud of myself.
Good job.
Yeah, and it's the
love
case.
it when that happens.
Me too. And this is the case that I wanted to cover when we came up with this theme.
Oh,
Indeed.
good.
Yeah. Trigger warnings on this one is fatphobia. Oh, yeah. We get to talk about it.
Oh, great. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about today.
Sure is.
God.
Okay. So this has to be one of the most terrifying cases to me. I remember watching this in the 90s on the show The New Detectives. Do you remember that show?
I think so.
I love it, and I have the little theme song in my head.
I was just trying to remember the theme song, but it's been a while.
The New Detectives was really good, and it focused on forensics and cases and how they use forensics to solve things.
Yes.
And it was really super good. Late 90s, early 2000s TV. It was on A&E, I believe.
It's a lot like Forensic Files.
It is a lot. It is almost identical to Forensic Files from the way the music starts. And
anything
everything.
that's in that vein of media is like comfort food for me.
Me
It's
too.
like the music and the background stuff.
We
and
was skipping school with a fake migraine. We were eating takeout Chinese, and we were watching The New Detectives. So that's what this is from. That's when I first saw this case as a kid. And man, it freaked me out. So this doctor does not have the body count the others do, and he's not a serial killer. But that doesn't make this case any less stomach-turning. The callous way he dispatched his victim, knowing that she'd suffer, and how afraid she must have been, is so chilling and so disgusting. This is the case of Dr. William Sybers. On May 29th, 1991, Kay Syber was having a hard time sleeping. She'd spent the evening with her husband, Dr. William Sybers, in their Panama, Florida home, after enjoying a dinner of prime rib and 2 bottles of Chardonnay. Kay had drank all that wine and taken a sleeping pill because she'd been short of breath and had chest pain. Now you may ask yourself why her husband, a doctor, would allow her to drink and take a sleeping pill when she clearly needed to see a doctor. But Bill Sybers would later say that Kay hated doctors, so much so she wouldn't go no matter how much he told her to. All he could do was treat her symptoms, her pain and anxiety. He was the one who had given her the sleeping pill. And y'all, that ain't right. Kay had found some relief with the wine and the pill, but now, late at night and really early in the morning, in her bedroom, she was tossing and turning, uncomfortable and anxious. She had shooting pains down her left arm, and though she was only 52, it will be pointed out 8,004,000,000,000,000 times that she was overweight.
Oh my God.
She was a former smoker, and she wasn't very active. It seemed as though she was having a cardiac event, possibly even a heart attack. And Bill, her husband, should have been able to see that. He was the chief medical examiner for Panama and a pathologist. He was well respected and successful. But instead of calling 911 or taking her to an emergency room, Bill said he did what he did whenever a family member came to him for any kind of medical advice or treatment. He tried to draw blood from Kay so he could take it to a lab in the morning, which is not going to help if you're having a heart attack.
What the fuck?
Uh-huh. Once more, he cited her aversion to doctors, which begs the question. Why would she marry one?
If she doesn't like doctors, yeah, why did she marry one?
If
She's
doctors
living with one.
Doctors freak you out. Why are you up one's butt? But I digress. However, Her arm was just too fat for him to find a vein, so he gave up.
Where is his medical license? I want to burn it.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry, he gets his. Yeah, so I just... Y'all...
But he used that as an excuse?
Yeah, that he couldn't find a vein because she's too fat. We loved it. We loved to talk about how fat she was on every single anything regarding this case. Let me tell you something. I've seen pictures of Kay, and she wasn't she wasn't that fat. I mean, she's a little chunky, a little fluffy.
But either way,
well, here's the thing.
It's not.
I'm a fat lady. I'm a fat lady. I am a fat lady. That's just true. It's not insulting. It is a descriptor. It doesn't mean anything. It's like saying the sky is blue, the grass is green. I am fat. I've been way fatter, and I've been way fatter than Kay. And nobody ever had no hard time finding a vein in my arm because of fat. That's stupid. It's stupid. Nobody believes that. Anyway, so he pokes her twice, and she's like, ow, it hurts, stop it. And so this is what he says.
Okay.
And so then he throws the syringe in the wastebasket. Keep that in mind. It's important for later. Yeah, so then he left his ailing wife alone, called his girlfriend on his cell phone.
His girlfriend?
Oh, yeah, and went to work with the promise that I'll call you and check on you. Bye.
Oh, you're having a heart attack? Okay, well, you just sit right there. I'm going to go get some booty, and then I'm going to go to work.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he wasn't having sex with her right then, but,
still.
Gross. So he also said he would send some friends over to check on her, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be friends that checked on Kay. It would be their 18-year-old daughter, Jennifer Sybers, who had gone upstairs to wake up her mother, who had seemed to have overslept. However, when she tried to rouse Kay, she couldn't. And in a panic, she called her father. Because of course she did.
Right.
Bill told Jennifer that he would send help and that he was on his way too. Emergency workers and a doctor from the medical examiner's office came to the house. Kay was completely unresponsive and had obviously been dead for some time. She could not be revived. It was pretty clear to them, given what Bill had told them about her, that she'd had a massive coronary. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of nasty comments of people who support Bill and his innocence about Kay. She was overweight. Yeah, but she hadn't had a history of health problems. She was inactive, but so were a lot of people.
People are so shocked at the idea that you can be fat and healthy at the same time. You can be fat, beautiful, healthy, glamorous,
people want to fuck you. I know that's crazy, but it's true.
You're totally sexy and still fat at the same time. It's just wow.
People will tell me, "Oh, Lillian, you're not fat. You're beautiful." I'm like, I didn't say it's ugly.
It's the most annoying thing.
And I am fat. I'm fat and cute. God. And look, my health isn't perfect, but it has nothing to do with my fat. It's epilepsy.
Right.
And car accident, which broke my body.
Yeah.
But I tell you, my cholesterol's low, my blood pressure's low. I don't have any heart problems. I do not have diabetes. And it's not a moral judgment if you're fat and you have those things. It's largely genetics.
Yes.
Love of God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox for a minute. I'll come back to it.
It's just frustrating because people aren't educated on this and they're ignorant and they roll around in their ignorance about it. Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not saying it wasn't possible, just that it's still unlikely. Bill was the only one who ever heard her complain about chest pains and shortness of breath, which is pretty fucking convenient. A police deputy responded to the 911 call and arrived at the Syber home only to be immediately told he just wasn't needed and the death was due to natural causes, so go ahead and fuck off. Bill Sybers arrived shortly after and was informed that his wife of over 20 years had passed away. And instead of going with procedure and all of that, or asking for an autopsy, he ordered that her body be taken immediately to the funeral home. Bill knew her wishes, and Kay didn't want an autopsy, conveniently. She would be embalmed and prepared for burial immediately.
Does anybody really want that? Does anybody really say, I guess there are religious issues and stuff like that.
There are some. But... And like, for example, when my mom passed away, I knew her wishes were to be cremated. She did not want to be buried.
But like immediately right away, don't give me an autopsy. Like,
I just don't hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think Kay said shit fuck about it. She was only 52. She was not thinking about dying. Like, I don't even think me and Maris have we probably should, but I haven't discussed what to do with my corpse.
Me neither.
Because, spoiler, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Yeet it into the sun.
Throw me back in the holler.
It's like, what you want to do with these old pants? Well, I'm going to throw them away.
Yeah.
So on May 31st, the day after Kay Sybers died, Florida police received an anonymous tip pointing out some strange things about Kay's death and the strange way Dr. Sybers was acting. The strange things were these. Despite being a medical examiner whose literal job was to find out when someone died, he didn't call 911 for his wife, who was in clear cardiac distress, according to him.
Wait, he wasn't just a doctor, he was a medical examiner himself?
The chief medical examiner.
Oh, that makes me want to hurl.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, continue.
Kay had never complained of chest pains or shortness of breath to anyone except Bill, and had never revealed an aversion to doctors to anyone except Bill.
Apparently.
Allegedly. She was overweight, but she was in good health. Shocking that a fat person can be in good health. But y'all, it happens all the time. Another odd point was that despite being a medical examiner, he refused an autopsy. Hell, like... I know my mom drank herself to death, but I still requested that the medical examiner do a tox screen.
Yeah.
Because it's just what's done.
Yeah.
In addition, investigators were asked to leave when they arrived on scene. All of that is very sus. So investigators decided to take a closer look at Dr. William Sybers.
Good.
Mm-hmm. As a medical examiner, Dr. Sybers would know that any unattended death in the state of Florida required that an autopsy be performed to rule out foul play, because he's the fucking chief medical examiner. It was just the red tape. It's
the
just
call is
how
coming from the inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just how things are done.
Bullshit.
He didn't have the authority to refuse an autopsy on his wife's body. Why then was he so reluctant to have one performed? Investigators considered this the biggest red flag, and I agree. Mm-hmm. Now, normally, y'all, I frown at police work. I frown on this podcast. But this time, man, these investigators were dog with a bone. They would not let this go.
This is the thing. There is a huge difference between modern, like your everyday police officer who polices
and an
investigator or a detective.
Yes.
Those are completely different roles most of the time. Sometimes in small towns, they overlap.
I'm going to be honest. I find a lot of investigative work to be lacking as well in a lot of these cases we cover.
Yeah.
Or like it's just fucked up. They don't secure the scene. Like JonBenet Ramsey's case, it's the whole reason.
Right. Or when they think that they already have it solved, so they gather evidence according to what they think.
That's what they did in JonBenet's case.
Yes.
They already pinpointed the parents as their prime suspects, and as a result, evidence was lost and destroyed. The case will never be solved.
Yep.
And if it weren't for these investigators and their dogged persistence to get to justice for this woman, it would have never been solved.
I love that.
I do too. So to find out why he'd broken protocol, they arranged to meet with Bill and interview him. Dr. Syber said that it had been just a mistake, that he'd made this mistake because the death of his beloved wife, who he adored, had shaken him so much that he just wasn't thinking clearly. Plus, he knew that she wouldn't have wanted an autopsy, given her aversion to medical everything. So again, why'd she marry a doctor? I do have an aversion to doctors, me, personally. And I would never marry one. But if I was that freaked out, that having a heart attack, I would rather just die at home. Yeah. Sorry, it just really
I don't
sticks
think a doctor would
craw.
marry me. Ugh.
I'm just pointing this out for the haters, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Bill added to his story. Of course he did. He told investigators that they had gone to a fancy dinner and she'd had quite a bit to drink. When they got home, she complained about being short of breath and she was restless, so he gave her a sleeping pill, which if you have like depressed respiratory activity, a sleeping pill's a sedative's the last thing you want to give somebody.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Then at 4 a.m. on May 30th, she woke him up complaining of sharp pains in her arm and chest. And this is when he tried to draw her blood, but said she was too fat for him to find a vein, and she was complaining that it hurt. He's like, I botched it. I just kept poking her. You're a medical examiner. What? You mean you can't draw blood?
See, I have, and I'm thicker too, so at least I can speak up on this because I have veins that collapse really easily because I gave a lot of plasma and I've had a lot of blood drawn and all of that. And people do have a really hard time finding my vein. And I get that.
But it's not because you chunky.
No, it's because my veins collapse.
Yeah.
But
that's not what he said, though. You know what I mean?
But the fact that he just gives up, and I don't know.
He said that she had a family history of both heart disease and diabetes. He said he begged her to go to the hospital, but she refused. I'm sorry, but if I thought Maris was having a heart attack, I'd make him go.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't for some stupid reason, I certainly wouldn't leave him and go to work. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, my husband is dying. I would drag him out the house. Mm-hmm. He said that she fell back asleep, so he assumed she was okay, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He then called his girlfriend he'd been having a long-time affair with and went to work. Now, he didn't tell the police that, obviously. They didn't know about the girlfriend.
It just feels like he just called her and was like, well, it's done now. We can be together.
Yeah, we'll talk about that shit in just a minute, because, you know, that happens. Mm-hmm. He claimed to have called Kay to check on her several times, but she never answered. He just assumed she was sleeping off the wine and the pill he'd given her. Another thing to note, as a doctor, he would surely know that sleeping pills and booze don't mix, yet here we are. And how do I know?
I'm not a doctor, and I know that.
How do I know that? Because I'm a lifelong insomniac, probably due to my epilepsy, and after my car accident, I was prescribed Ambien and told under no uncertain terms to not mix it with alcohol. Did Lillian listen at 20 years old? The answer is no.
What happened, Lillian?
I had adventures they don't remember.
I thought so.
Uh-huh. I slept with some people. Mm-hmm. There we go. That's nice.
Yep.
Left the house without pants. So
I had so many friends that used to do like Ambien tripping.
Oh, it's not good. It's
don't do that.
Like, do you want to see the Hat Man?
Oh, you'll dance with the Hat Man, and you won't remember most of it.
And he'll steal your wallet.
Everyone else will, and now we have modern technology where they can just record all the shit you do.
Yes, so don't do that. The investigator then asked for the syringe he'd used to try and draw Kay's blood, because obviously... But naturally, Bill didn't have it. He said that he had thrown away the syringe in the trash on his way out of the house to go to work. That he'd then taken the bag with like all the trash, the house trash, and this with a syringe in it, and tossed it into a dumpster a couple blocks from the house. Like a totally non-suspicious person would.
Like, is that your normal routine with trash?
Oh my God, investigators totally asked that question. And he was just like, oh.
Because that is normal around here because trash service is like $1 million a month. But I don't think it's like that in most places.
Not in Panama, Florida, it's not. He had regular trash service at his house. There was no reason for him to do that.
That's what, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was like, well, the trash was full and it wasn't trash day, so I had to go. Shut the fuck up.
You didn't.
No, you didn't. Okay. Investigators thought this was stinky, too. He just tossed a needle right in the trash. Doctors don't dispose of sharps that way because it's dangerous. Someone collecting the trash could get poked.
Yep.
So investigators went deep into Kay's medical history because they thought he was full of shit.
Yep.
There were no records of any ill health, and she hadn't avoided doctors, really. She just didn't have anything seriously wrong with her to necessitate going. This is not to say that someone can't suddenly have a heart attack without any symptoms leading up. Of course they can. There's the widowmakers they talk about.
Right.
Yeah. Another tell that's not mentioned in the research that I looked up is this. I know this because I'm a hypochondriac. Women typically don't have the same symptoms men do with heart attacks. They will get upper back pain, neck pain, and gastrointestinal discomfort more than we get like chest pain or arm pain.
Really? Is there a reason why?
Coughing, too. It's just the way our bodies are just a little different. And like, you know, our center of gravity is actually in the center of our bodies as women.
Yeah.
Men's is lower. And I think it just probably has something to do with that.
That's interesting.
It is fascinating.
Yeah,
yes.
really
I love shit like this. Science.
Because I definitely think that I've had a mini heart attack before. It's kind of scary.
My heart almost stopped having John.
It's terrifying.
It's not a good feeling. Feels real poo-poo. But it didn't hurt.
No, it doesn't hurt. It's just scary.
Well, it usually hurts real fucking bad with men, but with women it can be painless.
It's just a weird feeling.
Yeah,
it's like deep
I'm being
inside your body,
sucked backwards through my own butthole.
Yeah,
it's awful.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling.
Nobody likes that.
Yeah.
So shortness of breath, though, is across the board as like your cardiovascular system fucking up.
Yeah.
Any person over the age of 40 getting shortness of breath, hell, any age, should be immediately taken to the ER. And of course, if you've had COVID, you know exactly what that shit feels like.
Right.
God, it's like breathing through soup. It's the worst. And women can get traditional heart attack symptoms. I call them traditional. You know what? Fuck me. That's my internalized misogyny. They can present more like men can.
Okay. Gotcha.
That it's traditional means we just don't study it in women.
Well, yeah.
God, I just realized that.
Traditional medicine is studied through the men's lens because men were the only doctors for the longest time.
Barf.
That's why women can't be autistic now, can we?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just weird and socially awkward for no reason.
Yep.
Anyway, nothing in Kay's medical history could have predicted her heart attack if that's what had happened to her in the first place. It was clear that Bill was lying about her medical history. They really needed to perform an autopsy, so investigators got a warrant, and then they went and picked up Kay's body from the funeral home because Bill wouldn't let him. He was refusing. Interesting. Unfortunately, she'd already been embalmed, and this destroyed a lot of evidence.
What?
Obviously, in addition, when they arrived, she was being prepped for transport to her hometown in Iowa. This is important later, remember that. And was going to be buried. All the more suspicious that Bill was in a hurry to bury his wife. When someone dies suddenly without funeral arrangements already in place, it can take a couple weeks to straighten everything out.
Yeah, and why is she being embalmed? I thought she was getting cremated.
No, she was
confused.
No, she was not getting cremated, buried. Yeah.
Still.
But Iowa's an important thing to remember. Remember Iowa. This is important later. So when my mom passed away suddenly, she did.
Yeah.
I had to do everything. And I had to go to Tulsa to like settle her apartment and make funeral arrangements because she had none in place.
Right.
Y'all, it took a couple weeks to iron everything out.
Yeah.
You have to like warp speed that shit.
Yeah, it takes at least a week for the funeral and then, you know, the following week for all of the what happens afterwards kind of stuff.
Yes, and that he just went like gangbusters on it like that. Likely used his profession as a medical examiner to push through some red tape. Big red flag.
Yeah.
Why was Bill in such a hurry to bury his wife? First, the medical examiner in charge of her case tried to determine a cause of death. He noted that during the external exam, she had 2 puncture marks on her right arm, but that coincided with Bill's story of trying to draw blood twice. But they could have been injection marks. The next step would be a tox screen. They took tissue from her arm where the puncture marks were to test for any substances. Next, they examined Kay's heart. Obviously, there was no evidence of a heart attack or heart disease. The organ was in perfect condition with no damage or blockages.
Whoa.
She didn't die of a heart attack at all. Despite Bill's assertions that she had diabetes and heart disease, Kay had neither. All of her organs were healthy, including her brain. So it's not like she had like an aneurysm suddenly either.
Right.
Kay should not have been dead. And since she was, it could not have been natural causes. People don't just die for no reason.
Yeah.
And people don't die of fat.
I'm sorry, Lillian. I know.
I get treated like such garbage for being a chunky lady, so this pisses me off.
Yeah, same.
People do die of heart disease, diabetes, etc., which can be conditions fat people can get. But so can skinty people.
Yeah. All sizes can get that.
Causation doesn't equal correlation, my friends.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So tests were done on tissue and blood, and results were frustratingly negative. It seemed as though Kay had just dropped dead for no reason whatsoever. That being said, investigators were not daunted. They believed that Bill had not tried to draw blood from Kay, but that he'd injected her with something that killed her instead.
Yeah.
Because he had access to all kinds of fun goodies. They turned their search to dumpsters near Bill's house. They never found a syringe or evidence against Bill, so next they questioned Bill and Kay's kids. Jennifer, who had found her mother, insisted that Bill and Kay had a great marriage and rarely fought. Jennifer had seen Kay the night before she died and said both Bill and Kay were in great moods and seemed happy. Kay stayed up and talked to Jennifer until the wee hours of the morning, never complaining of chest pain.
What?
Of course not. None of the 3 kids believed Bill would have killed their mother, so the investigation was really hitting a brick wall. Kay was buried, as they had no reason to hold on to her body. I mean, they could not hold on to it any longer. Despite hitting nothing but dead ends, investigators would not give up on this case. And I wish all cases were pursued as hard as this one, but alas. They even got a hold of Bill's cell phone records and saw that he had indeed called his house several times as he claimed to check on his wife. They also found he had a girlfriend. And here comes the motive. In a 3-month period, there were over 140 phone calls made to a woman he was seeing romantically. Her name is not in any of the documents. So.
Probably don't want to be in those documents.
Oh, no, she don't, because we'll see why in a second. Girl. 2 of those phone calls happened in the morning that Kay died. They interviewed this woman, and she confirmed that they were close. She's friends. They're friends. She said that he'd called the day of Kay's death, but had been crying and sobbing and only wanted her to console him. But investigators found her story fishy as fuck. Eventually, they got her to admit that she and Bill were having an affair. At first, she insisted the relationship was platonic, and she saw him as a father figure because he's in his 70s and she's probably like in her 30s or 20s. Yeah. And then she admitted she developed feelings for him after spending so much time with him. He pursued her really hard, too.
Yeah.
Gross. Of course, she's a much younger, thinner woman than his wife, and just pointing that out since no one in the research wants to.
Yeah.
He hated his wife for being old and fat, and he wanted a newer model.
It just sucks that people can't, like, romanticize growing old and, like, literally growing old with your partner.
That means you made it.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yo, we've lived through some shit.
Yeah.
We should be proud of them
match,
wrinkles.
You know?
Oh, look how cute we are. We're all wrinkly. Yummy. And you know, as I get older, I find people my age attractive.
I've always been age appropriate.
Me too. Yeah. I was just talking in Discord to one of our listeners, Amber, about Josh Brolin. He was in the Goonies. He was fucking hot back then. And when I was a kid, I was like, yum.
Yeah.
And then he was in No Country for Old Men. I was like, giddy up, daddy.
Yeah.
And then he was in like Outer Range, and he's peepaw level this time. And I was like, howdy, Grandpa.
Yeah,
you can lasso me anytime. Yummy, yum, yum. I don't even like Sisman very much, but he's hot. But the point is, like, what are you doing? What are you doing with a girl like who could be your daughter?
It's a weird compensation thing, and I feel like it's part of that toxic masculinity that you just constantly are bombarded with media and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like they don't have enough confidence, so they have to try to make up for it or something. Yeah,
so it was all icky.
Yeah,
he needed to get divorced. He wanted to, but that was going to cost him money. And when I say money, I mean millions. They didn't have a prenup. And she was originally the trophy wife, right? She was young and skinny and hot, and she's 20 years younger than him. Yeah. But she had 3 kids. And y'all, sometimes you don't bounce back, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time. He didn't want to spend all that money on the divorce and the alimony and dividing up property and his kids being all upset. So, she could just die and that would be easy. Investigators decided to test the tissue and blood samples again. And this time they sent them to a more specialized lab in Pennsylvania. And this lab is like the best, or it was at the time. It was using the most like cutting edge techniques. Investigators found a clue. Kay had elevated levels of potassium in the fluid of her eyes.
Wow.
This is so cool.
Wow.
I'm going to get into the science of this, too.
Because I was thinking about how, like, if she was embalmed, that means that, like, all of, like, that embalming fluid went through her veins and went through, like, all of her system.
But not those kind of fluids. It
doesn't go through the eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
there's fluid there. They're going to test any fluid they find.
That's fucking fabulous. Okay, go on.
So potassium is a naturally occurring thing in the body, but not in the amounts that they found in the fluid of Kay's eyes.
No,
if
you
you
can
inject,
die.
yeah, if you inject a large amount of potassium into someone, it will cause their heart to stop beating. It's part of what we use in lethal injections when we execute someone. And if this episode doesn't make you see how cruel this is and how we should immediately stop, I really don't know what will. Never mind all the innocent black men we've put to death and how it's just not as painless as they'd like you to believe.
Right.
Dying is a messy business and sometimes a painful business, and I don't think we're morally good enough to be able to decide such things while we're still a bunch of racist cunts.
Yep.
But that's just me. Investigators at this lab used a new system at the time that measures the amount of potassium in the blood in relation to the amount of iron. There should be, in a healthy person, an equal amount of potassium and iron. Kay's blood had way more potassium than normal. The examiner then concluded that her cause of death was potassium via injection. So cool. In order to prove this conclusively, however, investigators at the lab needed additional samples taken from Kay's body. The issue is obvious. Kay was already embalmed and buried. She was buried in Iowa. And that state has a law. Oh, yes, it does.
God damn it.
The state law there is that a body can only be exhumed if the family gives consent, and Bill refused to consent. He would not allow Kay's body to be exhumed.
Some monkey paw bullshit.
Some monkey paw bullshit. Investigators turned to the state prosecuting attorney for help. He agreed to prosecute the case against Bill Syber based on the circumstantial evidence alone. However, the judge presiding over this case refused to take it to trial until, well, not refused to take it to trial, but he made the potassium evidence inadmissible.
What?
Until additional tests could be performed.
Gotcha, okay.
And here's the science behind why they needed more samples. Upon death, your red blood cells immediately collapse, and when they do, they release potassium.
No shit.
No shit.
Interesting.
Not as much as that was found in Kay's eye fluids. Remember, in her eye fluids, not her red blood cells, where they found the elevated potassium first. But still, more tests would have to be done on the samples to eliminate a natural cause for the potassium to be there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, at this point, years have passed. Investigators are still on this case, though. They absolutely believe that Bill Syber killed his wife. Toxicology tests convinced investigators that Bill had injected his wife with a lethal dose of potassium to stop her heart. The court ruled these tests inadmissible because additional tests couldn't be run. They had to find additional evidence with the samples they had. Luckily, forensic technology had grown leaps and bounds in the years since Kay's death. Investigators were ready to proceed to trial even without a cause of death. Bill Syber was arrested in February of 1997. He had retired and married the woman he'd been cheating on Kay with, of course. He turned himself in but was quickly released on $300,000 bail because he had severe health problems, and I enjoy the irony of this. He accused his overweight wife of having heart disease and diabetes, only to have health problems himself. He was 20 years Kay's senior, so it's not a surprise. We start running into health problems as we get old.
Of course we do.
He was fighting lung cancer. The lab had sent Kay's samples, that they had sent Kay's samples to, had developed a new test that could detect poisons that were not detectable before. Even though her samples were a few years old, they had been kept well and were preserved. As a result of her embalming, ironically enough, they were able to keep her tissue samples frozen, and they hadn't degraded because they'd been preserved by the embalming process.
Whoa.
Love it.
Wow. Another monkey paw bullshit, but on the good side.
But a good one.
Yeah.
Thus, they were able to run this new test on those samples. They first looked for the presence of paralyzing agents. These are known to increase the potassium levels in the body when injected. Now, I'm not going to explain the very sciencey test that they did, because even after reading about it and listening to it, to explain it fully in layman's terms would take not only someone more educated than me, but a really long time. Needless to say, what the test they developed was able to detect how the substance injected degraded over time, because that process has a signature.
Gotcha.
Chemically.
Yeah.
And earlier tests were not able to detect it. And here's what they found. And this gives me chills every time. They found succinylcholine.
Oh my God. It's like the theme this month. Like everything is intertwined this month.
It's insane. It's creepy as fuck.
God damn it.
Damn indeed.
Oh, honey.
So I'm going to explain what it is.
Yeah.
Succinylcholine is a drug that paralyzes the body, specifically the breathing, but the whole thing. It's used during surgery to relax the respiratory system to make intubation easier. But that does not mean that, but that does mean then that a machine has to breathe for you, because you can't. Kay was not hooked up to a machine. Here is exactly what would happen to you if you were injected with succinylcholine like Kay was. First, you are aware and you are awake. You cannot move. You can't speak. You can't breathe. And the person who did this to you is looming over you, not helping you. You can't even cry for help. The drug instantly paralyzes you, but you were aware of this the whole time. If you were being prepped for surgery, you'd have been knocked out before they gave this to you.
Right.
With a sedative. You'd be put to sleep. They'd put the succinylcholine in your IV, and you wouldn't notice it because you're not present. You're asleep. They'd intubate you, and the machine would breathe for you while they operate. It keeps your body still so they can work. Without intervention, a person injected with succinylcholine will go into cardiac arrest as they slowly suffocate to death. And that's exactly what happened to Kay. This took minutes. And she was aware she was dying, and she knew her husband, who she loved, had done it to her.
God damn it.
Eventually, Dr. William Syber Jr. would plead guilty to manslaughter to avoid the death penalty, because it was on the table. Manslaughter. He maintained his innocence up until his death on April 21st, 2014, in prison due to lung cancer. Hooray. He had bladder cancer, too.
I didn't mean to shoot her up with this.
Well, I didn't mean to, like...
I tripped, and the succinylcholine just injected itself into her arm twice.
Now, to be fair, I'm going to be fair. The people who maintain, including some of Bill's children, that he's innocent, believe that the test was flawed because it was a new technology. But the test has been used since, and they also called into question her samples because she'd been embalmed, so maybe that had fucked things up. And I don't think they would have won the case had he not taken that plea deal. And you may frown and say, why would they offer him that? Well, he was in his 70s. He had bladder and lung cancer. They just wanted him in prison long enough that he'd die in there. And that's exactly what happened. So is it the full justice for Kay? No, but it's what they could get. And you've got to applaud the investigators' dogged pursuit of justice in her honor and the way they handled this case entirely. I'm just really proud of them. I think they did a great job. It's one of the better cases as far as forensic science goes that I've looked into. I just really enjoyed the science behind it. So if you enjoy the science behind investigations like this, you guys are going to love next month.
Yeah.
And hey, this is not going to be easy for us.
It's really, really difficult research.
Intense. Yes.
And hard to do. I don't know. It's just not like...
Well, we have to, okay, so I have to learn what the words mean, because I'm not a medical person, I'm not a forensic scientist, and then I have to be able to explain them to y'all so you can understand. And I'm not saying you're dumb. A lot of you are probably way smarter than me. I'm just saying most of us, that's not our fucking job.
Well, in a lot of months that, we can just type in, like, in Google, like, killers that did this or whatever. And
this is hard.
Like a list. There's no list. There is no easy route next month. This is going to be a very difficult month. But I'm excited because forensic science is so delicious.
It's yummy.
It is so delicious. And we're talking about cases that are applied for the first time. So this is new technology in its first application. Yeah. So that's really exciting.
Like blood typing. That was not always a thing. That actually...
Fingerprinting.
But it came about much earlier than you think it would.
Yes.
Like, didn't it, like, late Victorian, early Edwardian period? Very fascinating. You know what else is fascinating, Willow?
Our goddamn Patreon.
Business time is fascinating. Yeah, don't ruin it for me. How dare you? Go fuck yourself. Friendship over. This week's sponsors, Tiny Sea Crafts. They make really cool fabric-y stuff like bags and masks and lanyards.
They just launched some bucket hats for the summer that are really fucking cool.
Cute as shit. And the fabric is adorable. So go check them out. I have their information in the description. Do you want
Instagram?
Yeah. Do you want to sponsor us? Because you can if you're a small business and you make things with your own little tiny sweet angel baby hands.
And we will shout you out on Instagram. We have a special spot on our Instagram page for our sponsors, so you get a permanent spot there. And let us.
So get in touch and we'll set that up. Also, I would like to let you know I have a special on my tarot readings right now. I've been reading tarot for nearly 30 years. I am doing $15 full card spreads. Y'all, these take me a couple hours, and I really will write it up for you. You will get like 4 pages, 2 to 4 pages of card interpretations and what I think it means for you. Maris will do a star chart too, with like any special day and the position of the stars illustrated in kind of a storybook, old-timey way. They're beautiful, and you can pick any day that's special and meaningful for you, not just a birthday, but anniversaries too. We're doing a reading and a star chart for $45, but only until the end of the month, only until August 1st. And then we'll all go back to their original prices. So please, if you've been on the fence, this is the sign from the universe to just go ahead now, I guess. Also, that's my dog beeping in the background. Sorry about it.
I doubt they can hear it.
They might. I don't know. But if you heard a beep, it's my dog. She don't bark. She beeps. She's small. So what was I fucking saying? Y'all help a fellow teabag out. They are in need of some dental surgery. Luxury bones expensive. So check out their GoFundMe, and every dollar helps. So please. Contest. We have 2 right now. Become a patron. $5 and up tier. Send me a picture, like a screenshot, or I'll just, message me on Patreon. I don't know why I didn't say that. It's because I'm stupid.
Patreon's really, like, as an app, is really
app
hard
is
to
a nightmare.
For
the creators.
From the creator side. I don't know what it's like on y'all's end. I know that a lot of people have had just issues like understanding it, so I'm sure it's hard for y'all too. Our email is in the link tree. You can always email us.
Please email. Yeah, and my email's in the description of almost every episode. But basically what you will win is a bunch of art, soap, candles, whatever I throw into a giant box. And that's what you will win. Our other contest is post a nice review. Send me the screenshot. And I will enter you into a drawing to become a patron. If you're already a patron, I will bump you up to the next tier. So do that. Now, that contest ends at the end of this month. The other contests where you become a patron, send me proof of that, ends at the end of August. So
and both, we have not very many entered yet. So
not a ton.
Just saying, the odds are in your favor.
The odds are in your favor, so hook yourself up. But if all you can do or want to do to support this podcast is listen, hey,
seriously,
thank you. I appreciate you.
Nobody listens in the real world.
No. People think I'm a weird, crazy kook. But I have noticed we do have a bunch of new listeners.
We do.
Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
I'm sorry I'm this way.
Apologies.
Yes, nothing to be done for it.
No.
Physicians have been consulted and they just threw up their hands. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Lillian.